Good morning and aloha. Welcome to Just Talking 24, page 54. How's your New Year's going? Mine's, is pretty good. It's been doing really, pretty well. I'm tying up loose ends from last year, and this year is looking to be better. Well, hopefully. Okay, it's only January, but hopefully better than last. Um, the only bad news was that what was it, 4 days before Christmas, my oven decided to take a crap, and I thought it was my oven, and actually, I cooked the brain. The brain smoked. So anyway, I went out and I bought a new oven because I didn't like the old one. My wife chose it, and it didn't have a convection, and I like convection. If those of you who know who's air fryers and who have a convection oven, you know that how great the roasting does. So anyway, I went on and I bought one, it's almost same brand, just that it has a convection. Then when they installed it and they plugged it in, it gave a reading that it's a bad line. And so we checked, and sure enough, I gotta change the wire. So I gotta run new wire. Fortunately, my friend's son-in-law is an electrician, and he said, "Yeah, no worry, Uncle." So I just bought the stuff, and he has a busy schedule too, cause yeah, with the kids and everything. But he's gonna be helping me. It should take us, if we can, if we can run the new wire, cause this is an old house. This house is 75 years old, so they did it differently back then. Yeah, and so we've gotta try and mix old with new. Okay. Anyway, last week I unintentionally, and the reason why unintentionally was when I told you about the idioms, I gave you four only. I couldn't remember the fifth. My memory just wouldn't work. I mean, you guys know I'm Portuguese, right? So it just wouldn't work. Well, the fifth idiom that I had left out proves to be the talk of this week, and that's TP. Remember? Toilet paper. What do I use toilet paper for? Well, besides the obvious, but as a sarcasm, as a sarcastic idiom, toilet paper refers to any diploma after BS or above. And the BS, isn't that an appropriate name for it? BS. Yeah, it really is. Okay, this is too high. I'm clipping out. How's that? Okay. Anyway, and so um, you guys know that I follow X. Okay, and we're gonna have today actual physical stuff to watch at. Anyway, on X, this was given to me. I gotta do it right. Da, 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 da. Can you guys see that? Sorry. Okay. The top one. Top one says 8 plus 8 divided by 4 times 2. And they said, can you figure this out? And I 8 plus 8 is 16. Divided by 4 is 4. Times 2 is 8. I said, it's 8. Well, this guy calls me and he tells me, no, it's 12. And I said, no, it's 8. And he said, no, it's 12. And I go, what do you mean it's 12? And so he cited that, he goes, I have a BS in mathematics. And I have been teaching for 32 years. And it's 12. And I said, okay, it's 12. Then I found out that since the late 1980s, early 1990s, they've been teaching a new type of math called PEMDAS, PEMDAS. And it's a new system of math. But as you can see, everyday life gives you 8. What he said, would be written this way, the second way. Okay, but the first 8 you don't do until the end. So you don't see. I was taught in school, mathematics, right? Well, we used to call it arithmetic. Arithmetic is done the same way you read a book, left to right, function by function, right? 8 plus 8 divided by 4 times 2, one at a time. They go, skip the first 8, go straight to 8 divided by 4, which is 2, times 2 is 4. Then you add it to the 8. And you get 12. 4 plus 8 is 12. So it's 12. I told him, but that in real life, you don't do it that way. He says, of course you do. I said, okay, where do you do it that way? He says, well, in everything. And it's, I went on X, they have this question AI thing, right? Remember AI? And he said, yeah, it is 12. And so he gave me another problem. And the other problem was you order a $60 meal to be delivered to your house. And it's, and the delivery fee is $12. And with the tip. So what's the total you're going to give it to him? Give the driver. And so he figured it out on his PEMDAS, and he came out with something like $150 something. And I came out with 84 because it's $60, $12 for delivery. You want to tip. He wanted to tip 20%. So you tip 20% of the 60, which is another 12. So 60 plus 12 is 84. But his one came out to $150 something. And be using the PEMDAS. I said, okay, so yeah, I'd rather you as my customer. But in actual real life things, PEMDAS doesn't work. It's for a specific purpose, not for general math, not for everyday math. Oh, and by the way, the third one that I wrote, okay, yeah, that's just to come out with a different answer. The first one is 8. The second one, which is that PEMDAS, is 12. And the third one, if it's the same number in the same, same order, same functions, just grouped differently. And the last one comes out 2. And that's math. Math is arithmetic is one thing. It is every day. Okay. When you go to mathematics, they even changed the name from arithmetic to mathematics. Why? Because it gives them control. So I went to research. What is this PEMDAS? Because we never had it. Okay, I'm old, right? So we learned arithmetic, and PEMDAS was. They said, oh, it's been around, for centuries. I said, no. When was just to get AI give me one straight answer when the thing was started, when it was taught in the schools. Well, anyway, I found out that it was taught in the schools in the late 80s and early 1980s and early 1990s, and it didn't really take over till 2000. And do you want to know why? To learn PEMDAS, it correlates with standardized tests. The people that can understand. See, arithmetic should be for everybody. The peons like me, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Although I have gone into a class, theoretical math, 1 plus 1 equals 3. And they, numbers, you can do anything. You can bend numbers, and they bend numbers. And 1 plus, and he wrote it out. 1 plus 1 equals X. And then he does all his calculations, comes out X equals 3. Therefore, you remember the 3 dots? Therefore, 1 plus 1 equals 3. And that's the proof right there. But what you got to understand is when they put on all those formulas and everything, it's for their own language. Okay, and I'm going to get back to that. Just remember that. Okay, it's for their own language. But the reason why they did the PEMDAS was so that everyone would get on the same page on math scores, so that the test scores would go up. It doesn't matter if you don't know regular math. And I've seen you've seen it, right? You go to the store. I go to the store and the clerk tells me that my total is $4.68. Okay? So I give him a $10 bill and 3 pennies. And so what do? Okay, because I want, I don't want to, I want to get rid of my pennies. Okay? So I give them 3 pennies and they should give me $5.35. 1 5, 1/4, and three and a dime. No, what does the clerk do? Gives me back my 3 pennies and he gives me $5.32. So now I got 5 pennies. How do I get rid of pennies when they won't take the pennies? But the kids today cannot because the machine told them that you have to give this man $5.32. You don't need the 3 pennies. They cannot figure that out. And that's PEMDAS. PEMDAS doesn't care if you know arithmetic. It wants you to do their way so that when you take their test, your scores go up. Isn't that sick? To me, that is wrong on so many. But these people actually swear. This guy that came up to me, 36, I've been teaching for 36 years. Don't go down that road. Well, you're down the wrong road, bruh. You're not teaching arithmetic. You're teaching theoretical math. Theoretical, not actual. See, like in real life, I'll give you a good example. You guys know that I was in healthcare, and I was in intensive care, and some of our medications, it's MEQ, which is the amount of the medication, times the person's weight in kilograms. Okay, it's not even in pounds, it's in kilograms. Okay, diluted into a bag, and the bag you can go either 50 or 100 or 500 cc or whatever, and then titrated or pumped into him, dripped into him at a certain rate over a certain amount of time. And the physician will prescribe it. And the nurses will say, hey, check my numbers. And I have to check the numbers. And that you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Not this PEMDAS thing where you do, you got like I said, this one, sorry. This one, you have 3 functions. You have addition, division, multiplication. You have 4 integers. Remember those words? Yeah, the numbers? Okay. So the old math and the everyday real world math is you do number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and the functions tell you exactly what to do along the way. That was your story, okay? It's like reading a book, you don't start at the end, just to get the climax, you build up to it. Same thing. 8 plus 8 divided by, but no, the new way is, like I told you, you do the 8 divided by 4 times 2 first, and then you come back to the beginning. That's PEMDAS. And my niece, well, my Calabash niece, but she goes, no, uncle, that's the way it is. I said, no, honey, that's wrong. I said, but when you go to the store, what do? How do you know they're ripping you off? Okay, let me give you an example. You buy a 1 pound hamburger, okay, and you tell them, I want it in 4 equal trays. So they're going to divide the 1 pound by 4. So if you do your math, okay, each one is 4 ounces. Now you take away the 2 because, times 2. You only want 2. So they give you 2. How much you got? She goes, 8 ounces? I said, no, according to your PEMDAS, you get 12. She goes, what? I said, according to PEMDAS, we did the same thing, but not in actuality. In theory, you came out with 12. But what you got in front of you? You got a half pounder. 8. Who's right? Real life, right? Wouldn't real life be right over theory? And she goes, Yeah, I said, okay, that's what happened. So what I did was, okay, I went into this Grok on X and we did that delivery thing. You know that Grok said, you're right, and it was written wrong. It was written wrong. In other words, the story that we told was not the story we wanted to tell. That's what I mean, folks. That's why do you think the kids are so screwed up today? They're learning stuff that they'll never use. And that's true. I mean, when would you, in everyday life, when would you use PEMDAS? All you do is just revert it to simple math. I'd rather write it in regular English than in Old English. Have you ever seen that? One of my teachers, he was the head of the English department for the University of Hawaii. And this was a junior level English class. And one day he came in and he started speaking in in a foreign tongue. Well, we thought it was a foreign tongue. And he went through the whole spiel, and it was a few minutes. And he came back and he said, "Do you know what I just said?" And we were over the He says, "I was speaking medieval English, and I said the Lord's Prayer, and it sounded nothing like the stuff today." He says, "Yeah, that's called evolution of language." He says, "This isn't a linguistics class," but he says, "Yeah, that's evolution of language." And why do they? So it comes to mind. Why do they do that? And basically, it's for control. Every profession. I don't care if you dig in ditches. I don't care if you're a rocket science. You have your own language. Why? Why make a language that only you can understand, or you and your colleagues can understand, and the average man cannot? Right, for control. When doctors talk to me, most of the time I can I can kind of keep up, but once in a while they go off and say, "Whoa, whoa, 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 back up, back up. What was that?" And so they have to bring it back and put it in terms that I don't need, see Dick run. I can see, Dick and Jane ran down the street. I can understand that. But when you say, Dick and Jane use their lower extremities to facilitate the traveling or movement of their persons down, the roadway or whatever it is. If you start putting it in that term, then I start losing it. So I thought, whoa, 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 let's go back to see Dick run, And no, but then that's because I gotta understand it, and I'm like that. But they said, I'm not like my cardiologist said. Well, only 80% of my patients won't understand it. I said, okay, fine, but you don't gotta worry about the 80%. It's us 20 that do, because we're gonna sue your ass. Which is why I don't use that cardiologist anymore. But yeah, this is PEMDAS, and it's so that the scores would go up. But what about the kids that don't understand it? I went, okay, and this is not this. This is for real. This is what happened. Okay, it's ain't full brag. This is just the way it is. In my middle school, what we call intermediate school, which was grades 7, 8, and 9, they had one class of algebra, just one, and you took your test and everything, and I was fortunate. Well, actually, I wasn't fortunate because because of my test scores, I was in that algebra class in the 8th grade, not in the ninth. Usually, it was the ninth grade. You get brainiacs in there, right? And oh yeah, yeah, I'm the brainiac. Yeah, right. Anyway, see, you can baffle them with bullshit, people. Yeah, you don't dazzle them with brilliance. You baffle them with bullshit. But anyway, I was in that class, and what was bad about that was I'm in the 8th grade. There were only two of us 8th graders in that class. And what do you do in the ninth grade? Because they didn't offer a higher math. That was meant for ninth graders. And they wanted to put me in that one. But for what? Because in the ninth grade, you go back to regular math. and you forget how to factorize. You forget how to, you forget algebra. And so when you go to geometry in sophomore year in high school, well, they assume that you coming straight from algebra, so everything is fresh. All the formulations, you know, all the theories are fresh, and well, not forgot them. It's just that they're rusty because you don't use them. No problem. Math is one thing. The more you use it, the more you practice it, the better. The more sharp you are. Like if you watch what's that one? Big Bang Theory, and they have a new theory. That's their language up there. All those numbers, all those formulas and everything, they're reading it like a story. Don't you notice that? Yeah, that's their language. Why? So that only their colleagues can understand. And they go, oh, you made a mistake. What? Oh, over there. That's all I know, right? But it's for control, really. It gives them a sense of control and power, knowing that only they can do it, and it's done all over. Look at law, right? Oh yeah, you can defend yourself, but we don't say it because you don't know the proper procedures of this court, which may have nothing to do with law. Okay, it's because I saw one where the guy came in. He's a farmer, so he comes in his overalls, and the judge berated him because, do you always dress like that? And he says, yes, Your Honor, I just came in from the field. Oh no, you will dress in proper attire in this courtroom. What the H is that? Yeah, because of the power. Look, the judges, once you give them a little bit of power, I'm a judge. So what, brother? You still gonna die. You ain't nothing, really. I had doctors. The doctors, we have residents that came through, right? And they talk story. And we had this one resident. He was a doctor from Japan, and he was, I believe, he was a rheumatologist in Japan, and he wanted to go into surgery. So to do that, he decided to go through the American medical system. So he had to go through all his classes and everything, and then he has to do his residency. And he told me that the biggest thing he had to overcome was that us peons, like the healthcare tech and even the nurses, us peons would talk back to him. I go, what do you mean talk back? He goes, in Japan, when the doctor, sensei says something, nobody questions. That is the law. This is what I say. This is what you do. No matter how stupid it sounds, right? Whereas in America, doctor, do you really want to do that? The patient is this, and this, and do you really want to go there? And how dare, you peon, question me. He said that's the hardest thing he had to overcome, but he learned that, we are with the patients 24/7. They're not. So we gonna know the idiosyncrasies, and we can figure out what's going to happen, and they don't. And he says the hard part is when he goes back to Japan, they're not gonna do that. I said, yeah. I said, well, the reason why is because our primary focus is the patient. I mean, it is your patient too. In Japan, it's like that, but just the culture. We will question because we're thinking of the patient, not of you. You just another tool that is used to bring this patient back to good health. And he said, yeah, that's the hardest thing he had to learn. And that's what they do. They like to keep this power, this control. I don't understand, because I'm not like that. I'm stupid. You tell me something. I'll give you another example. Yesterday, I went to Lowe's to pick up the cable and the outlet for my stove. And like I told you, my house is 75 years old. So the stuff I got is 75 years old. And so I'm looking for an outlet, and this Samoan guy comes up to me, brother, what you doing? And so I told him what I was looking for. He told me, oh, maybe you should go to a four prong. I said, why would you use a four prong? He goes, no, 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 that's what they use, four prong. I said, no, but why would you use a four prong? We were talking 240 AC. Okay, I just need a hot, a cold, and a ground. That's how AC runs. I don't care how, how long you get them, how strong you get them. That's AC current. DC, all you need is a plus and a minus because it's a one-way thing. But AC, you get alternating current. So why would you need one four? He said, no, but you need four. That's what I mean. They say you need them, but they don't know why. And he's supposed to be an electrician. Just like this guy is a math teacher, been teaching for 36 years, and no, it equals 12. No, brother, it's 8. If it's written the way it's written in that particular instance, that is 8 because there's no instructions. You see, this thing, the parentheses tell you a lot. These parentheses tell you a whole lot of things. They tell you what to do. Like the first one, nothing. You just go left to right, one at a time. The second one, you go 8 plus, and then 8 divided by 4, which is 2. So 8 plus 2 times 2. So that would be, this would be, actually, that would be 20. 8 divided by 4, 8 plus 2 times, yeah. I'm sorry. That's 20. The second one is 20. I was wrong. Oh, yeah. It's supposed to be in a parentheses, and the 8's supposed to be at the end. That's how it's supposed to be written. Yeah, the second one is 20. The first one is 8. See, I made a mistake. And now that I look back and it's backwards, yeah, that's wrong. Doing it my way, it's 20. And the third one is 8 plus 8, 16 divided by 8, which is 2. So it'd be, see, that's a fourth way. You get the same numbers, different phrasing, different idea. See, I'm wrong. So it's not 12. The way they did it was the 8 does not belong in the beginning. The first one should be the parentheses. 8 divided by 4 times 2 plus 8. So 8 divided by 4 is 2, times 2 is 4, plus 8. That's the way we would write it. The way it's written, that's 20. I'm sorry. I'm corrected. And that's why with math, it's simple, yet they make it so people love to make difficult. Yeah? I told you, they love complexity. The more complex it is, the better they like it. But when you keep it simple, like on the top, you're wrong. You're wrong for being simple. Sad, yeah? But anyway, yeah, that's because all of this is because I forgot to tell you about toilet paper. But you see why I call it toilet paper. This is a BS in math. Yeah, it's the BS, all right. Frustrating. Very frustrating. But anyway, that's it for this week. Hope that you guys had a great week. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know, listen to Nerd Pila, right? Yeah. But like I said, like and subscribe again. Give me ideas, please. Lots been happening in Minnesota. That's gonna be interesting, huh? That's very interesting. You guys know that I bleed blue, and I'm gonna give the bias to the police officer. And unless he's really wrong. If he's wrong, I mean, I seen him. I've seen bad policemen. But like I replied in that X thing. The biggest regret that I have is that the police departments today have to recruit from the human race. Yeah, when you start getting RoboCops, then everything will be fine. People gonna try to figure out how to, short wire RoboCops. But anyway, folks, you have a wonderful week. Nothing much happening. Just take care of each other, love each other, and Happy New Year again. All through January. Happy New Year. Okay, so it's ahui ho, malama pono, and always from me to you. Aloha. Bye-bye, have a good week, and be safe.